You wake up. Look at the clock. Get up in a hurry. Brush your teeth. Get stuck in traffic. Work. Come home tired. Sleep badly. Wake up again. Repeat. At first it seemed normal. Today, it seems inescapable. And the scariest thing? You call it life. But Max Weber would warn you, this is not life. It is conditioning. The routine you follow every day was not born with you. It was shaped, adjusted, inserted slowly, as if it were a natural necessity. But it is not. It is a social construct. It was designed to make you functional, reasonable, and above all, predictable. Weber, one of the greatest sociologists in history, didn't write about algorithms or smartphones, but he already saw what you're experiencing today. The modern system doesn't need to trap you. It just needs you to obey in silence. And the most effective way to ensure this is by creating a routine that you repeat yourself, even if you hate it. You weren't born to work 10 hours a day for a salary that barely covers your bills. You didn't dream of spending most of your life waiting for the weekend. You didn't want to grow up and feel like your only purpose in life was to not hold anyone back. But at some point, you stopped resisting. You stopped asking. You stopped dreaming of something else. And you accepted that this was reality, as if the world couldn't be any different. Weber called this the rationalization of life, a process where everything is organized, calculated, systematized, and emptied. Modern routine serves the system, not your spirit. It was created so that machines could work, so that companies could grow, so that productivity could explode. But no one asked whether the human soul could survive it. You have learned to call it accountability, but perhaps the more honest name is program dehumanization. You start to measure your worth by your busy schedule, by your answered emails, by your goals, by how much you can handle. And the worst part, you don't even realize how much you're fading away inside, because everyone around you is fading away too. Only in a suit, a lab coat, and a badge, Max Weber would look you in the eye and ask, is this your routine? Or was it given to you ready-made, and you just accepted it? Because the routine that exhausts you may seem normal, but if it doesn't feed you inside, it's not a routine. It's a prison with a nice name. Max Weber saw what almost no one had the courage to say. The modern routine was disguised as a virtue. It was sold as a sign of responsibility, discipline, and success. And you believed it. You started to take pride in always being busy. You started to see it as a compliment when people said, "You never stop." You started to feel guilty about taking a break. You started to measure yourself by what you produce, not by what you feel. Weber called this the triumph of rationalization, the point at which life becomes structure and the soul becomes noise. The routine that exhausts you today was once offered as a safe path. You were told that studying, working hard, and following the rules would guarantee a stable and fulfilled life. But no one told you that the world had changed, and that the logic of productivity had swallowed up meaning. Today, the more you work, the less you live. The more you strive, the more you feel like you are standing still. The more you follow this routine, the more empty you feel. Why? Because Weber knew that the problem with modernity is not order. It is the excess of order. That is when everything becomes formulaic. That is when there is no room for the unexpected, the artistic, the emotional. That is when even free time becomes an item on the agenda, and rest becomes yet another obligation. You no longer have time to contemplate. You no longer feel guilt-free pleasure. You can no longer sit still without feeling unproductive. You have been trained to associate rhythm with value and silence with failure. But Weber would reveal, the system created this illusion because it needed parts that did not question. Routine, when blind, is the antidote to free thought. You go with the flow because everyone else does. You adapt because stepping out of line feels dangerous. You overextend yourself because you've learned that this is being an adult. But deep down, your body gives you signals. Sleep won't come. Your breathing becomes shorter. Your soul shrinks. You feel like you're surviving well, but you've stopped truly living. Weber didn't propose chaos. He proposed perception. He knew. Routine is not your enemy. until it becomes the only thing you live for.
And is this what is happening to you? You call responsibility what is perhaps just an escape from reality. You call a goal what is perhaps just another soulless repetition. You call stability what is perhaps just the slow death of your authenticity. The system doesn't want you to stop and ask. Because when you ask, you start to wake up. Max Weber had a clear vision. Modern domination doesn't need handcuffs. It just needs compelling narratives.
And the most powerful of these is this, that its drudgery is a sign of value. You weren't just conditioned to accept the system. You were taught to be proud of it, to say that you don't have time for anything, as if it were a medal. To call success what is really just exhaustion with a nice name. Weber knew that the rationalization of modern life creates a dangerous trap. The human being turns into a gear and calls it a conquest. You are no longer someone with desires, rhythms, and depth. You are a number, an agenda, a performance. And the more you obey the logic of production, the further you move away from your own soul. You wake up tired, but you say, that's just how it is. You feel a weight on your chest, but you respond, it's just stress. You dream of another life, but whisper, this is just a phase. But Weber would show you, this is not a phase. It's a project. A silent project of human formatting. Where all that matters is that you stay predictable, busy, productive, and quiet. And obedience does not come from fear. It comes from the vanity of appearing busy, from the pride of saying, I don't have time, from the satisfaction of always delivering, even if it drains you inside. You started to think it was normal, having lunch while checking email, answering calls while driving, thinking about work on the weekend, blame yourself for resting. But Weber would ask, at what point did rest become a sin? At what point did being human become synonymous with being a machine? You've learned to wear your routine like armor, to hide your pain under goals, to silence your screams with productivity. But the body does not lie. The soul cannot be deceived forever. You can keep calling it success, but deep down, you know there's something wrong. Weber wouldn't judge you. He would understand. Because the system was made for that, to make you applaud the cell you live in. What about you? Do you still think that your routine is a choice? Or have you realized that it was planted in you, with applause, awards, and promises? Max Weber knew that modern society would be able to rationalize almost everything: work, time, transportation, consumption, communication. Everything would follow rules, metrics, protocols, manuals, everything. Except the pain. Because pain doesn't fit into a form. It doesn't follow spreadsheets. It doesn't fit into meetings. And most importantly, it doesn't make sense within the logic you were taught. You feel this discomfort, this anxiety that doesn't go away, this desire to disappear for a few days, but that you hide with productivity. This exhaustion that you disguise with phrases like, I'm in a rush, or just another tough week. But Max Weber would reveal, this pain is not a failure. It is a sign. A sign that your humanity is resisting the way the system wants to shape you. You feel this when you meet goals, but feel like nothing changes. You earn a better salary, but you still feel empty. You go through another full month and you realize that you haven't experienced anything that matters. It's like you're always in a flow, but never at your own pace. Weber called this the disenchantment of the world, an era in which everything is functional, but nothing is sacred. Everything moves, but no one knows where it is going. Everything is done with a purpose, but none of it really feeds the soul. And here's the point. The routine the system gave you was designed to produce profit, not meaning. To generate results, not meaning. To maintain order, not enchantment. But you are not a cog, you are a person, and people need more than a goal. They need silence, art, faith, love, creative emptiness, space to make mistakes without punishment. And Weber saw all of this fading away from modern life, fading away slowly as you go with the flow without stopping to think. You know you're not okay, but the world applauds you for keeping going. So you keep going, and the system wins. Because when you ignore your pain,
You become perfect for productive logic. You function, but you no longer feel. Weber never romanticized the past, but he saw, with frightening clarity, that modern life leaves you no time to be, only to fulfill. And this logic that slowly empties you, was given to you as progress. But Weber would ask, if this is progress, why does it hurt so much to live like this? If you study, work hard, and are responsible, you will have a stable life. That was the promise. And you believed it. You have accepted routine. You have accepted logic. You have accepted sacrificing time, art, rest, spontaneity, all in the name of one magic word, stability. But Max Weber had a brutal warning. The stability the system offers you may just be an elegant way to keep you trapped. Because that stability rarely brings peace. It brings repetition, it brings predictability, it brings control, but it does not bring meaning. You live the same week, 52 times a year, and you call it building the future. But future for whom? For which version of you? The one that's left after silencing all your desires? Weber saw this clearly. Modern society has trained you to accept boredom as a sign of maturity. You have learned to think it is beautiful to be self-effacing, to call success the fact that you have no time to dream. But while the world applauds you for remaining stable, your soul screams in silence. You feel safe, but suffocated. Right, but disconnected. Useful, but invisible. Because the stability they offered you was built on your ability to ignore yourself. You follow the expected path, but you miss yourself. And Weber knew this was intentional. Because the system can't handle people who change. People who feel. People who dare to ask questions in the middle of the week. So he offers comfort in exchange for your restlessness. He gives you security, as long as you don't question it. He lets you live, as long as you feel dead inside. And the cruelest thing, you start to be grateful for the cell. At least I have a salary. At least I have a position. At least I don't depend on anyone. But Weber would provoke. What if at least is costing you everything you are? You can call it stability. But maybe it's just your soul shackled in silence, and the key is inside. But the system hopes you never realize you have a choice. Max Weber never said that the system wanted to harm you. He said something even worse. The system doesn't care about you. It just needs you to function, to obey, to keep running. It doesn't matter if you are happy, inspired, or at peace. What matters is whether you deliver, whether you respond, whether you meet your goals, respect your schedule, follow protocol. Weber saw the modern human being as becoming a cog in the wheel, and the wheel doesn't want his soul. It wants his continued operation. You don't have to love what you do. You just have to keep doing it. You don't have to believe in what you live. You just have to follow the agenda. And so, day after day, you learn to survive, not to live. You survive the job. You survive the week. You survive the month. You survive the year. And you only live maybe for a few hours on the weekend, if you have the energy. But Max Weber would ask you, is this life? Or is it just an anesthetized routine with a nice name? You have been trained to accept survival as enough, to think it is normal to live without a sparkle in your eyes, to celebrate when things are not bad, even when things are not good. The system teaches you to be content with little time, little presence, little silence, little depth, as long as you continue to produce a lot. And when someone starts to question this, when they dare to stop, change course, slow down, the world calls them irresponsible, immature, someone who doesn't understand how life works. But what if it's just the opposite? What if these people are the only ones who can still hear their own soul? Weber did not condemn order. He condemned the inner prison it creates when it is blind, automatic, and totalitarian. And that's what's at stake. Not your productivity, but your ability to say, this is not living. I want more. You can keep surviving, and you'll get a pat on the back for it. Or you can start living and scare the hell out of people who've been sleeping with their eyes open for years. The system wants your conformity. But Weber believed lucidity can still be your form of freedom. Max Weber wasn't talking about sudden tragedies. He was talking about something more dangerous, the slow death of your authenticity.
He knew that the system doesn't knock you down with one blow, it eats away at you little by little. And the poison? The routine you never questioned again. You think you're making choices, but how many of them are really yours? How many do you repeat because that's the way it's done? How many do you keep just because everyone else around you has given up? Weber saw this as the greatest risk of modern life, that you stop choosing and start just getting on with it. Routine has taught you that questioning is a waste of time, that changing is dangerous, that feeling is weakness, and that the right thing to do is to keep going, even without knowing why. But the price for this is high, because you're not just repeating steps, you're abandoning yourself in the name of logic. You say you don't have time, but what you lack may not be time. It's permission. Permission to listen to what you feel. Permission to stop following. Permission to say, this routine is not mine anymore. Weber never spoke of an external revolution. He spoke of a much deeper type of revolution, one that begins within. Because only those who realize that they are obeying automatically can wake up. Only those who feel the weight of soulless repetition can break the cycle. Only those who have the courage to see that life has become a task can reconnect it to what really matters. Routine kills you slowly because you stopped acting as a subject and became a function. But you can remember, you can question, you can choose, and this choice doesn't have to be drastic. You can start small, a firmly said no, a respected silence, a pause maintained, a routine broken just because the heart asked for it. Weber didn't say it would be easy, but he would leave you with a warning. If you don't choose your path, the system already has one ready for you. One that works. One that pays the bills. One that no one questions, but also one that will silence your soul until it becomes just a whisper. And you weren't born to live on autopilot. You were born to be whole,